Bonjour, good evening, everybody. Welcome along to this edition of SportsView on nearmedia.tv on Monday, the 8th of July 2024. Press the red button to subscribe to our channel. Very much appreciated. The usual, if you want to email us, feel free to do so. Same email and the same phone number if you want to text us. Good evening, Joe Waters, and welcome.
Good evening, Pat. Evening, Darwin.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Pat.
Good evening, Darwin, and welcome along again for another edition. Well, we've reached the last four in the Euros. We did say in the beginning that England was a form team, is a form team, and would be involved in the business end of this thing. They're playing the Netherlands and France and Spain tomorrow night, and England and the Netherlands Wednesday. And in soccer, Craig Bellamy is one of the favourites to take over the Welsh team. I just saw it on the one of the websites there, so that'll probably be a good appointment. He's a good head in him. Uruguay beat Brazil on penalties in the Copa America. You know?
Yeah.
And they're into the semi-final against Colombia, and Argentina are playing Canada in the other semi-final. It's the big one in the Americas, that tournament. So there was a few surprises in that, just looking back over it,
Well,
Canada's
a shock to be there, really.
Huh?
Canada is a shock to be there.
It is, yeah.
They weren't expected to do anything. And the irony of it is that Jesse Marsh is the coach of the Canadian national team and the ex-Leeds United manager.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he was up for the US men's national team, and they gave it to Greg Berhalter instead, gave it back to him. So the irony is that Jesse Marsh is taking unfancied Canada to the semi-final, where the US, who were expected to challenge for it, went home early.
They did, and I was just looking back at some of the results, but I mean, Argentina obviously would be no surprise to be in the semi-final, and Uruguay and Colombia in the other semi-final, and no Brazil, as I said, no America, no Mexico. A lot of fancy teams gone out of it, but they're down to the last four as well. Those semi-finals are on during the week. I think they're 1 o'clock in the morning. Greenwich Mean Time would be the beginning of those games anyway. But getting back to the Euros, there was Spain and France and England and the Netherlands. Now, Didier Deschamps, the manager of France, said, if you think we're boring, you don't have to watch us. You turn off television. You don't have to watch us at all, That was his answer to the question on a few of the lads that were slagging them off, As Darren was saying to me, Joe, did France score a goal at all from open play so far?
No, they haven't.
No.
It's been own goals and penalties, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's when you got two guys like Dembele and you got three guys actually that are probably some of the best forwards in the world, and they can't score a goal. Griezmann, Dembele, and what's his name?
Mbappe.
That says a lot about your team if you're not scoring with those guys on the field. But again, we talked about this last week, and it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there. No one's going to remember the performances. And, England have done it again. They played, like we said, they got lucky in the first round of the playoffs, and then, they go and do it. I mean, they scored 5 great penalties.
He did. Fantastic.
Pickford makes a great save on the first penalty for the other team, and it's the rest of the guys, held their nerve and came through it. So it's been a great achievement for them. I don't care what anybody says. It's been a great achievement for them to get there. Now this is what his 4th semi-final. Southgate.
Fourth in 5 tournaments, yeah.
Yeah. So, there's only one England manager being better, and that was Sir Alf Ramsey. And that was because Sir Alf won the World Cup, which he had the advantage because they were at home for fewer teams in it also
Yes.
at that time. So it was a much different tournament than you're looking at here, and the quality of players that are.
I think you had 4 groups of 3 or something in '66 or something like that. 12
Yeah.
teams. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but it's totally different now. But Southgate, I mean, he has his record speaks for itself. The team itself, I think, the press in Britain, generally speaking, on soccer, and we see it during the year with the way they cover soccer, the press in general, both print and broadcast media, are way too harsh, way over the top on what we call routine soccer games, day in, day out in soccer, and it spills over then into the international team as well. I think they're way over the top. I mean, the tournament to me has been very boring. The Euros has been very bland, very flat, devoid of any excitement, to my way of thinking. Anyway, I didn't see any decent game in the tournament.
There was a couple that were exciting.
Turkey's been good to watch.
Yeah. So there was a couple, but you're right. I mean, for all you can say, it has been a pretty boring. Other than when you get to the shootouts, and that happened, quite a bit in the playoffs. But it's not been a great tournament by any means.
Well, I'm thinking back to the Women's World Cup, which I watched because Ireland obviously were playing in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I watched two or three cracking games of soccer, believe it or not, in my opinion, with Ecuador. Ecuador, was it? Ecuador? I think they were. They were a South American team and they played some fantastic stuff, and they were very good, But as you said, Durban, maybe Turkey would be exciting enough. They were an exciting team to watch. They were, I'll admit.
Spain are very good to watch. They're easy on the eye.
Germany are looking for a replay of their match against Denmark. I mean, really and truly, over a handball incident. Now, the biggest thief in world football is Thierry Henry. He's the biggest thief,
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been on that side of it, so we know what it's like.
Yeah. When it goes
England have been on that side of it with Maradona, so that game. So we all know what it's like, and that to me, just speaks to the fact that you get VAR out of it, because now VAR is compounding the issue. Before, when it would be the three of us arguing whether it was a handball, and if you were Argentinian, you'd say no. If you were English, it was a handball, and then you'd have somebody else, whatever, and you're going, but the referee decides it, and the human error factor is all a part of the game, and it drives me mad when people say, "Oh, VAR is doing this, VAR is doing that." To me, it's not. It's taking the excitement out of the game, and it's just making it into somebody else. And don't even tell me that they're not re-refereeing the decisions that are made on the field. That's what they're doing.
But Joe, there's so many cases where in one match VAR gives handball, and the guy's hand is down by his side, and he's in a sliding tackle or something, and it clips his hand and it's handball, and then you get the next game, and it's virtually the same kind of thing, and they don't go for it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. I mean, I think what I can't remember. It was one of the pundits the other day. I don't know if it was Lee Dixon. Turned around and he said, "Well, I'm totally lost now. I don't understand what handball is anymore. I used to understand it, but now I have no idea what handball is anymore."
Well, and I'm the same way. I mean, when they're talking about if the ball hits you and it's above your shirt line, then it's not handball. Well, that's still your arm, isn't it?
Well, I think so.
If your arm is out here and it hits you there, that's still, to me, a handball.
When the back is running away with his back to the player, and the ball is hit towards him and it hits his hand, it's a penalty according to VAR. Now that is completely nuts. It's utter madness. I think it's madness.
Yeah.
But it's so many bits with VAR, and that some of these offside decisions where it's like their fingertip, or
Yeah.
you're not even talking millimeters, are you? You're talking nothings, right? And you do sit there, and I kind of just go, well, an old-fashioned linesman would never have pulled some of those offsides up, would they?
No,
Because
they're too tight to call.
Because it's so fine you wouldn't see it with the human eye, would you?
No,
My rule is to the ref: if you can't see it, if it's not visible, it's not a foul.
and that's it.
I just think the game's going. I wouldn't say to pot. That's the wrong word, but some of it I just don't get, because there's so many inconsistencies with VAR.
Mm.
How long does it take to get some of these decisions sorted? I mean, it takes way too long, doesn't it, for some of them?
Yeah, it does. And football is not a game that's meant to be stopped for any periods of time.
Do you know what surprises me, Joe? If you with the comment you've just made there, just thinking now with what you just said, if there's one sport on this planet that could do with VAR and it wouldn't make a blind bit of difference to how the game's being perceived, whether you're standing in the crowd or whether you're watching on TV, is American football. Because it's so stop-start. I mean, we don't necessarily enjoy American football because we don't understand how it can take so long, and B, why do you have to put another team on when you're doing something else? And we don't grow up with it, do we? So there's that part as well.
There is.
It's so slow, isn't it?
Well, it is. You look at basketball. Basketball is a great game, and stuff until you get to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And then it takes it's a 12-minute quarter, I think it is, in 12 to 15-minute quarter. It takes about 25 minutes to play because the amount of timeouts that is calling it. So, but that game is designed for that, to have that in there, so there's nothing wrong with that. Our football was never designed for that. The same with our Gaelic games. Imagine what Gaelic games would be like if every time you stopped, because you have to have a look at a replay of what went on or what have you. So there's just some games. Rugby, it somehow works for rugby.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the ball spends a little bit more time out of play in rugby because people are kicking for touch and what have you, and doing that, and they have injuries. So so they have that. But for a free zone game like soccer,
it seems like a natural thing for rugby now.
Yes, it does.
And it seems seamless, doesn't it, when you think about it?
But the difference is, though, the referee is talking you through what he's asking the people in the box to look at, right? And then not only that, so that the decision comes, and this is what I'm looking for, and can you show me that? And everybody in the stadium can look at it
and hear it.
Yeah, because he's telling you now what he's looking at.
Yeah. Exactly.
So he's explaining the process, and the person in the booth is saying, "Okay, Derwin, is this the one that you're talking about? This is the incident, correct? Yes, it is." They do it, and they move on with it. Now, if they were to do that in soccer,
well, in the World Cup in rugby, there was a lot of dreadful decisions.
Yes, there were.
In the All Blacks Ireland match, Ireland scored a legitimate try, and they went back 2 plays before it.
Yeah.
To say that there was an incident. I mean, that's ridiculous. I thought that was absolute. It had nothing to do with the play that they scored the try out of. It had done with the play before that.
Yeah.
I mean, bringing things back like that is not fair, and it's not proper.
It's not. But again, that now speaks to re-refereeing the game. The referee missed that on the field. It's
Yeah.
been dusted, right? If the official misses it, then you don't go back and say, well, you missed this.
No,
You know,
you don't.
that's
No,
part,
you don't.
you know, that's the beauty of the game, is
No.
that everyone, you know, the referee didn't deem it to be wrong at the time. So that's away you go.
And tomorrow night now we have Spain and France. Darwin, who will win that?
France.
And Joe, who do you think?
I think Spain. I think I think Spain are the favourites to win the whole thing. They're they're outstanding, you know, attacking wise. They're just their tempo of play, everything about them is exciting. Their defense is good. I don't know if they win this match, will Danny Carvajal be back for the final? If that, because he got. I mean, he was already missing anyway because
Morata is out as well.
who's out?
Morata.
Yeah. Oh, he's out. And then the young kid that got clattered by Tony Cruz, he's out as well, isn't he? He's done for the tournament.
I think he is, yeah.
So that might, you know, those are things that will affect them, I think, more than. I just fancy them to. They're the most exciting team in it, but again, we all know, because the irony of the whole thing. I watched the Brazil Italy match that was in the World Cup in Spain.
Yeah.
When Paulo Rossi scored.
82 was
they
it?
They had that team with Zico and Falcao and
Socrates, wasn't it?
Socrates and those guys in it. Yeah. And I mean, they were such a fun team to watch. They were the best football team at the tournament. But the Italians were able to stop them being creative, and of course Rossi came up with the goods and won it for him. So, you know, that's the thing that might derail him just a little bit, because France are pretty well organized, well marshaled defensively.
They are.
And this could be a game that Mbappe might be extra fired up for, because he is going to go to Madrid and he wants people in Spain to see him. So this might add a little extra element for him to come good with it, kind of thing. So it'd be interesting to see.
I think Griezmann reminds me a bit of the man with Croatia. What's the name of the chap with Croatia?
Modric.
I think their best days are behind them.
You know, it's getting that way. You know, he's certainly getting that way, and we've seen it. You know, I mean, we're seeing the waning years of Messi now, I think, as well. I think Ronaldo is gone, and I think that Martinez has a lot to answer for by not being stronger with him.
Oh, I mean, Martinez. If Portugal did not have the players to replace Ronaldo, then you would say Martinez is right to play him. But they have players every bit as good as Ronaldo on the bench.
Yeah, they left Diego Jota on the bench, a guy that comes on and scores goals at vital times.
Yeah,
every time he practically steps onto the field, and don't bring him on.
I think he lets himself in his country down a lot. You know, that's just.
Well, you know, this is not the first time that Roberto Martinez has done this.
Yeah.
He did it with Belgium as well, with that great Belgian team, and that's another team that underachieved.
It is.
They should have done more with the players that they had, and they didn't manage to do it when he was the coach there.
You know, when Belgium were playing, I looked at Lukaku, and I just thought he's way too bulky.
Yeah,
and he doesn't run.
No,
and you're looking at it and thinking, well, you've got a player up front who, maybe once upon a time he was a really good player and all the rest of it, but his time has been and gone. And
no, he was very poor.
You're saying with Ronaldo, you know, and without going too deep into it, I think Kane's been a bit of a letdown. He doesn't look right. You know, he's not mobile to start with, is he? He's not been blessed with speed.
No.
No.
And you know, it's as though England are playing like a system that has to work around what Kane does. But you know, Saka the other day started to go past players and crossing it in, and where was Kane? Kane was so far back.
He was not there at all. And really, Joe, you said that too, and we all admitted that it's the Achilles heel for England is Kane.
Yeah,
you know?
well, that's the problem with it. You know, I mean, he wants to be a false nine and drop off and receive balls in there, and he does a real good job when he's able to do that with people running off of him. Problem is that he's getting away the other midfield players that are in there to do that job, and Bellingham wants to do the same kind of a job as him. So you end up with your two central guys that are supposed to be getting forward and getting into the box, both being further back than they want to be. And then when the ball gets out wide, they're not able to transition quick enough to get back into the box. That's the problem with it.
And we definitely won't see any change before Wednesday night anyway.
Oh, no. I mean, let's be very clear about that. They've already set their stall out for what they're going to do, you know, and they are now of a mindset that, which is great. I mean, it's great for the England team that no one's going to beat us on the field. You know, we're strong enough that we can withstand whatever is thrown at us, and that we're good at slowing games down. We keep possession of the ball without being an offensive threat, but they're able to kill the game off by doing that. Whereas, and you have to look back at it, how many times have we seen teams from the British Isles that play great football, were gung-ho on the attack, and get sucker punched by a team from the mainland Europe and beat them 1-0?
Yeah.
And everyone is going, well, we're not savvy enough to stop them. Now England are savvy enough to do it, and they're getting slagged off.
That's true. Now, another thing is, you said there early on, there when we were saying I was saying how boring it was, and Turkey was a better for share and Spain to watch. I think I must mention another team I liked the cut of their jibs, so to speak, was Romania. I thought Romania played pretty good soccer.
Yeah,
I think some of those, like Slovakia, played nice. Really.
Yeah.
They kind of haven't got enough depth, shall we say?
No.
The thing that worries me, Joe, you know, with Holland on Wednesday night, you've probably got the best four fullbacks playing for Holland in the whole tournament.
Yeah.
When you look at it, and they've got the other opposite problem. They can't score goals because Memphis Depay is just not there, is he?
No, he's not.
And, you know, if you look at them, it take, you know, you've got to imagine that De Bruyne. I mean, there's so many of those Dutch players playing the Premier League that, you know, De Bruyne is probably, every time he comes forward, is going to go man to man. Someone's going to be on him, aren't they?
Well,
no, but De Bruyne is Belgian, so he's not going to be.
Not De Bruyne.
Gatko.
No, I wasn't thinking.
Gatko for Liverpool.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking, because he's the only one that appears to have any kind of spark going forwards for Holland. It was Gatko.
Of the four teams that are left, the most offensive, if you want to use that word, team of them all, and natural goal scorers of Spain.
Yeah.
Of the four that are left, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm lucky I backed them. They're one of my two teams that I backed to win. The two teams I backed to win actually were Spain and France. So
Well, one of them's going to get to the final, Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I had that year.
Your man Foden left me down badly. I had Spain and Foden to be the top scorer in the Euros, 150-1. Anyway, here you are. Well, Foden might score a hat trick in the semi-final.
Well, I mean, you never know. But again, you're talking about that, and you're talking about putting him into a system that England play, which is a totally different system to what Man City play.
Yeah.
So, and people are slagging him off because he's not doing this, he's not doing that. Phil Foden's disappeared. But he's doing the job that his coach and manager wants him to do, and that's all a player can do. When you're asked to do a job, you're told to do a job, and if you don't do that job, you're going to get the hook.
You won't be playing.
And he's doing what his coach is asking him to do, and they're being told. If I'm Gareth Southgate, I'm in the dressing room.
Look at all
ignore all the noise around you.
True, but look at all the great players down through the years that were asked to play in a restricted format, say like Foden is. I'll bet you 10 to 1, if George Best was playing for England in Foden's position, he would not do what Foden has done. He'd go ahead and score a goal.
I mean, it's easy to say that because we've. I mean, I know I've seen George Best play. I've seen George Best play live, and he was a fantastic player. But he still had a job that he had to do, and he did it. So and he had a job. I mean, George Best could tackle with the best of them. He could track back. He had a great engine, so he could do all those things. But he also could, on the spur of the moment, do something that beat three men and put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah,
that was his gift. And Phil Foden doesn't have that real gift in his game. He has a great first touch. He turns people well. He's very good on the half turn, and he can get the ball up under his feet to get a strike off. But he's not one that's going to go, like George Best did against Benfica in the European Cup final, and go around and sit the goalkeeper on his butt and then stick it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Phil Foden is not that kind of a player, but it's interesting to see the rest of it now. I mean, you just talked earlier that with Saka, what he was doing in the last game, it seems that he was encouraged to do that. Once we can do that, you go ahead and do it. And let's see what happens with it. So you never know really. That the plan is always, if you get the opportunity, go take it.
Another aspect of the Euros for me, which has been very disappointing, has been free kicks and at the edge of the box. Free kicks. Yeah. I mean, there was a time when you get the odd free kick, you'd be able to score a goal out of it. But these are highly paid, highly professional soccer players. They don't even trouble the keeper. These free kicks.
Yeah.
You've not seen any scorchers, have we?
No. But I mean, it's again, these guys, like we said, I mean, they practice these things all the time, and when there's no pressure on, it's a whole different kettle of fish, and then you get the opportunity in the game, and all of a sudden, the nerves start going and what have you, and it seems like a great opportunity, and it seems very simple, but the difficulty of it is pretty high up there. To be able to get it up and down over a wall is a very difficult skill.
It is. There's no doubt about it.
I'd love to see Kane on the bench and Tony playing from the start, because I think Tony's got a bit of strength, he's got a bit of speed about him, and I think he'd be up against
Van Dijk.
Virgil van Dijk, and he's going to have Aki, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, and he plays against them every other, in the Premier League, doesn't he?
Twice a year. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he knows what they're capable of, and he knows, how to combat it. Whereas I don't think Kane has got this. I don't think Kane's the same stature as Tony. I think Tony would be hard to be pushed off a ball, wouldn't he, Joe?
Yeah. Yeah.
He would.
It would. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see it, but I think it's a bit late in the day for him to be making
No, he won't make
huge decisions like
he won't
that.
make no.
You know what? I tell you what surprised me. I didn't realize that Daley Blind was still in the Dutch squad.
Yeah, I can't get my head around that.
And then what's his name as well? That was at Man United.
He's still there.
Yeah, and he came on the other day in the game,
Yeah.
and I'm going. These guys get slagged off by all and sundry, and yet here they are in the semi-final of the Euros.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, whoa.
Well, when you look at it, like Pat's just said, out the 4 teams that are in the semis, if you look at it seriously, it's only Spain that's been any kind of entertaining team.
Yeah.
And the other 3, I mean, let's face it, France possibly look more boring than bloody England.
They do.
They do.
And a little bit more devoid of any ideas. And if you look at Holland, well, they don't look like they can score a goal to save their days, can they?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to predict the 2 semi-finals are going to be 0-0.
I think the England
They
Holland
got
game
written all over them, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they've got that's penalties all day long, England Holland.
But I mean, you just look at the tournament. With Germany started out with a 5-1 win over Scotland, right? Germany are at home now.
Yeah.
So it's like we talked about. It's not the way that you start; it's the way that you finish. And that, everyone has the same breaks, the same luck goes their way or doesn't go their way, and it evens itself out. But you've got 2 teams that are built on strong organization defense. That's England and France. The Dutch are always very, very well organized, but have a few guys that can do a little bit on the ball that can make them a bit special. And then you've got, Spain. That Spain are the genuine article, I think, and have been.
You look at those 3 managers: Ronald Koeman, Southgate, and Deschamps. They're very, very conservative people, very conservative players.
Well, look at the positions they played.
Yeah.
Koeman played at the back.
Yeah.
Gareth Southgate played at the back.
Yeah.
And Deschamps was a defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
So they all
that's
know
their mindset.
They all know that what wins you games. Strong defense wins you games.
Yes.
And look at what happened to the French when in South Africa that time when they tried to play. The players wanted to play a more expansive game, and Dominic, their coach, didn't want them doing that, and they went on. Threw their toys out the pram and went on strike and got themselves knocked out. Whereas he knew what he wanted, and that the great, French teams were built on solid defense, having Zidane and guys like that, and Thierry Henry on the offensive side of it. But they were always very sound defensively.
Well, anyway, SportsView is a program on learnmedia.tv. Tell all your friends about us. Press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel, and it'd be very much appreciated. We'll just turn to golf for a moment. The Centurion Club, Derwin, you know where that is, don't you? The Centurion Club, wasn't that the very first live event held there?
First live event, yeah.
Well, there was history made over the weekend there in golf again, and our own Leona Maguire became the first Irish ladies golfer to win on tour, the European Tour. She finished with was it an eagle? An eagle, yes, on which she had to get. She won it by a shot at -8, so she won 70 grand for her weekend. Lauren Walsh, who's another young up-and-coming Irish golfer, she finished in joint third at -6. So all in all, it was a very good series. And people are slagging Live Golf because of the money they're getting from the Saudi Arabian fund. But all these ladies' events that they're playing, the Aramco series, are
Yeah,
all
it's all from
funded.
Aramco, which is just another arm of the Saudi PIF.
And there's nothing in the press about it. So I mean, let's dampen down that carry on for a minute. Now, Derwin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was thinking over the weekend, the BMW International used to be a flagship event in the
Yeah,
European Tour one time.
yeah.
It has lost its luster somewhat. Would you say?
To be honest with you, I think the European Tour need to have a rethink. To be honest, there's a lot of events on the European Tour now that are really, second rated.
Yeah. Well, the BMW International was on over the weekend, although you wouldn't think it if you weren't the golf. I remember it being second only to the British Open one time, Derwin.
No, you're thinking of the PGA Championships there,
Oh,
which
in
was
Windrush.
sponsored by BMW at Wentworth.
Oh, yeah.
So
Is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah,
yeah,
that used to be
but
just,
the German Open was always a big event.
yeah.
But I mean,
And
it was always known as the German Open, and it became the BMW International because
yeah.
they had the opportunity to bring some Americans over and boost up the sort of the world ranking side of the field.
Your man
But
from yeah,
I think the problem the European Tour have got is all the European Tour big names are in America, and they don't come back to Europe unless it's loads of appearance money to play in the BMW at Wentworth at the PGA Championship, play at the Scottish Open because it's warm up for the Open,
yeah.
and they're getting paid to play. So all of them come back for selected events, and I know McIlroy, saying he's going to play in the Irish Open and all the rest of it, but to me, the big problem the European Tour have now, if you think about it, go back, if you think about, the players that we would know, the Faldos, the Lyles, the Woosnams, and
Yeah.
Bells and the Sevis and all the rest of those,
Yeah.
they played more in Europe than they did in America because it was the other way around.
They did. That's right. That is quite correct. They only played a handful of tournaments in America at the time.
Yeah, because the Americans made it into a closed shop that
Yeah.
it's harder for them to play in America.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's the other way around. If you think about it, Fleetwood, Shane Lowry, McIlroy, Fitzpatrick, you could probably say at least 10 or 11 out of the Ryder Cup team are based in America now.
Well, they are because the money is there. Young Ferguson from Scotland won the BMW over the weekend.
Yeah.
At -18, but also which gave him a spot at the British Open as well, the winner.
Yeah.
So he qualified for the British Open, which is fantastic, and he won almost €500,000 as well, which is very handy as well. Now, the John Deere Classic was played in the United States over the weekend. When you consider the BMW, it was €495,000 to the winner. The John Deere Classic, which is run by Thompson, at -28, and he shot a final round of 64. These are eye-watering numbers, as we said before, Derwin. -20.
Wasn't there another 59 in the first round?
Was it? -28. And he shot a final round of 64, and he won $1.44 million for that. But Seamus Power, just because he's Irish, played in the John Deere Classic as well. Now, you would say, if you were him, he finished up at -19, and he finished his last round. He finished with a 65. He was nowhere near winning it. But can you just imagine yourself as a golfer? You play a round of 65, and you finish at -19, and you're down the field.
Yeah.
I mean, they I look at it in a different way to a lot of people. So it's resort courses, so the rough's not there. It's perfect conditions. Greens are mint. There's nothing. They're like putting on billiard tables. They're flat. They don't spike up. They're perfect conditions, right? But you basically take 4 par 5s out of the equation. So par is 68 in reality, even though it might be a par 72, because there ain't a par 5 now that you need a par 5 to be over 700 yards to actually stop them knocking it on in 2.
You do?
So, you suddenly start, I was looking at, I found an old yardage chart in an old golf bag of mine the other day, which goes back about 35 years ago. And it was from the French Open at St. Nom-la-Bretèche. And my yardages that week, I was hitting 3-wood 220. I then looked online, and the average 6-iron is now going 220.
Oh, Jesus.
And you're sitting there, and I'm looking at these numbers going, Christ, what was wrong with me? I must have kept the head cover on my 3-wood then to hit it there.
Yeah.
But then you sit there, and it was daft, because I went to a box, because we're a bit anal in some ways. We keep all our yardage charts, because when you go back to play the following year, you take your charts with you, because it gives you notes on what you did last year, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I stood there and I looked at one from 2 years ago, playing in a seniors tour event, and 220 for me was now a hybrid, which is like a 4-iron.
4.
And you're sitting there just going to yourself, well, I've got a lot older, I've got a lot fatter, I'm not as flexible, and yet what's made the big difference? Well, it's the ball and the kit.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you think to yourself, I remember Firestone Country Club, Joe, in Akron, Ohio. Firestone was known as the longest golf course on the US tour. It was like murder.
That's where Jack Nicklaus is from, isn't it?
No, he's from Columbus.
Is he
Columbus, Ohio. Yeah.
Right.
So this Firestone's Country Club was obviously owned by the tire company, but it was over 7,000 yards back in the early 80s, and it was known as a monster.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking of the Blue Monster at Doral being 7,300 yards long off the back. And I've played that many times from wintering at Doral, right? And you're watching when they play the Blue Monster for the whatever tournament it is, they're the live event now. But when they used to play the Miami Open there on the main tour, before Trump had it, 18 was just a massive par 5. It was 3 hits to get up there. And I played a mini tour there back in 84. I hit driver 3-wood 7-iron into 18. And I remember I went on YouTube and watched, I can't remember who it was now. It might have been Koepka. He knocked it up on 18 off a slightly longer tee now. They've lengthened it slightly.
Yeah.
But he knocked it up there with a 5-iron. and you're like going, that's, I nearly had 5-iron going in for my 3rd shot. And, he's knocked it on there with a driver and a 5-iron. And you're like, but these scores that they're knocking it around in are just, they're 4 under before they start, really, because the par 5s, they're playing par 5s as par 4s.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you mean.
Even the little guys who aren't hitting it as far as DeChambeau or McIlroy or any of them. Lowry's not that long, really.
No.
But they all knock it on the par 5s into.
They do.
And the only difference is that whereas McIlroy might go in with a 7-iron and Lowry's going in with a 5-iron. But again, in 35 years ago, that would have been a driver and a 3-wood, or maybe a driver and a driver to get there.
Or John Daly in his heyday.
Yeah, I mean, you think of Daly in his heyday. I mean, Daly in his heyday, if you put him out there now, he'd be down the bottom half of the tour for distances.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
I
So
remember
when you
watching.
see them being 28 under, you know, at the best will in the world, that's really probably 20 under because the courses are past 68. It's not a past 72.
Yeah, that's true. So, but it's still an astonishing score, 28 under. And I said,
But
Seamus,
they're doing it every week, Pat. So
yeah.
it's not like you know, it's not a flash in the pan, is it? They're doing it every single week.
No, I mean,
And
you see 60, 60, 61, and 62s a couple of times in a tournament. Whereas before it was something to be celebrated. Someone shooting 59 or 60 was something that was to be celebrated. But now it's happening all the time.
well, you think about Al Geiberger knocked to 59 round, I think in the mid 70s, right?
Yeah.
In a US tour event. And that stood, I think that was the lowest ever, as in no one had ever gone below that. And then you think when was the next 59 after that? It was probably in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, probably.
You know,
Probably.
that stood for probably 20, 30 years. And then all of a sudden, it's like someone else knocked it round. I can't remember if it was at the BMW or whether it was at the John Deere. Somebody else knocked it round in 59 the other day in the first round. And it's now becoming like not a common thing, obviously, but it's much more prevalent than it ever used to be.
It is, yeah. It's more common now. Yeah. It's nearly in every tournament. Now, just moving on, our old friend Lewis Hamilton won the British Grand Prix over the weekend in Formula One. He won it for the 9th time, which is a record, you know, an astonishing record. So it's his first win in over 2 years. That's Lewis Hamilton I'm talking about. And he won it. He beat Verstappen and Norrie for second and third in the British Grand Prix. He's going to Ferrari next year, as you know. He's leaving Mercedes. That's Lewis Hamilton. So it'll be interesting to see how he'll get on there, you know. But I thought it was...
I reckon Verstappen must have stopped for a drive-through somewhere and had a burger or something.
Yeah. But anyway, it was fantastic that he did it. Just going back to golf, Bernard Langer played his last round of golf on the European Tour this year after 50 years. That's 50 years playing.
Yeah, remarkable, really, isn't it?
Yeah. He's been a remarkable golfer to me, absolutely remarkable, consistent golfer, you know. Kept himself very healthy. He was very healthy and very fit as well, which helps as well, you know. But
well, of course, seniors tours help as well. Yeah. You know, that gives them an incentive to stay. And so we were talking about it last week, you know.
Stay in shape.
You can play golf, I mean, till they're throwing dirt over you.
Well, you're right, Joe. Your president, Joe Biden, said he's an 8 handicapper on the debate. Remember? Yeah. Joe Biden. So I mean, he's 81, and he doesn't know where he is half the time, but yet he knows he's an 8 handicapper. Would you think he's an 8 handicapper?
Trevino's still playing, isn't he?
Yeah,
Lee Trevino's still playing. Yeah. And I saw, I saw the senior. When you look down at the names on the seniors tour, and you look at them, golfers, you were household names, you know, but they're still out there hitting the ball and still playing well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I knew a guy here in Tacoma. He actually played on the U.S. Ryder Cup team. Guy, you remember him, Ken Still?
Yeah, yeah.
He was the pro at local golf course just down the street from us here, Faircrest golf club, and he was still knocking the ball around and doing his thing well into his 80s, you know. So he was unfortunately we lost him just recently, but yeah, he was a local guy here. So you know that's the beauty, and the seniors tour gives them a competition to still be a part of, you know, they'll be able to win. So that's the beauty of sports like that and masters tennis and stuff like that.
You
You
still
know,
have Mike Weir playing. You still have Ernie Els playing. You still have Colin Montgomery, Darren Clark,
yeah,
Harrison,
Singh, all
and
those.
a name from the past, Al Guyberger. Do you remember him? Is it
Yeah,
Al?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that name on the list. I said, "My God," anyway,
Well,
it's
Al
great.
Guyberger,
I
I
think
mean,
it's
like I
just
just said, Al Guyberger knocked that 59
yeah,
in the mid-70s.
yeah.
And,
My goodness,
you know,
me.
I mean, amazing when you think about it. I mean, have you seen Crenshaw?
Ben Crenshaw, yeah,
Yeah, because
70,
in my head, Crenshaw's got blonde hair and
yeah,
he just nails it. Well, I watched Trevino giving him a lesson on the practice ground the other day on a YouTube thing, and you know, I'm looking at it thinking, well, that looks like Crenshaw's swing, but obviously shorter and a bit slower and all the
yeah.
rest of it. But he's still got the same haircut, but it's just white.
Yeah.
And
He's
it's
70,
just like, how
he's
old's he
70,
got?
I think he's 74 or 75 or something.
Yeah, I mean, you in your brain, you still remember him as being
Of course you do.
young, don't you?
Yeah. Amazing.
yeah. It's like Curtis Strange. You know, I mean, he's white now as well. You know,
Yeah.
you remember him back in the day when he was winning majors and what have you. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny how you do have a picture of a person in your mind, and it never changes. You know, in your mind, you still imagine him
Yeah.
that way.
I still
Oh,
see George Best in my brain. George Best is wearing the old Man United kit with the little white bit here,
Yeah,
and he still had number 7 on the back,
yeah.
and he always had his arms tucked or the sleeves outside his hands, didn't he?
Yeah.
Keep
Yes.
his hands warm.
I,
And
I
all I
remember.
remember, when you said George Best earlier, in my brain, as soon as you say George Best, I got a picture in my head of him. I've got 2 pictures. One going round the goalkeeper against Benfica in '68, and the other one is when he knocked in 6 against Northampton
right.
in an FA Cup game,
Yeah.
I think
where he's leaning
after
against the post.
being suspended for a month,
Yeah,
he's first
where
back.
he's kind of tapped it in, but he's leaning against the post and sort of feels sorry.
Yeah.
He helps the goalkeeper up, I think.
Yeah,
I think that when you look at the state of the pitch that he scored those 6 goals
Yeah.
on, like, just like a plowed field, you know.
oh, it was. I played there. I know what it's like. It's
Well, when
a cricket ground, is what it
Yeah.
was. It was open. It was open on one side, and they
Yeah.
put. I think for that game they may have put in temporary stands for it. But
Yeah.
when we used to play there, and especially for reserve games, because Northampton were in the football combination with Leicester City and Arsenal and Spurs and Ipswich, all those, West Ham, all those things, Chelsea. And you go there and it was open. And it was the most disconcerting thing you ever came across, to play a game with like an acre over that way. It felt like, you know. I mean, if the ball went over there was more time wasted going to get it back. You know, there was never any. And you know, Bramall Lane used to be the same way.
Yeah.
Bramall had a cricket ground, and that was it. So one side, on 3 sides of it, you had the football stands behind both goals and on the one side, and then the other side was completely open. And then I played in it years later when they built the new stand over there and made it into an actual proper stadium, soccer stadium, what have you. But it was weird playing on those things. It really
If you
was.
think about it, if you watch the old clips, Joe, Wembley must have been unbelievable to play on in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Oh yeah,
even probably in the 80s as well.
It was like Stamford Bridge. Stamford Bridge had a track around it.
Yeah, they did
in the old days, and I think they used to have Speedway there.
I think they did. Oh, Greyhounds and Speedway. Yeah, I think they did.
And I mean, Stamford Bridge was, when I played there back in the 70s, it was a pit. I mean, it was it was not a good ground to play on. I mean, it was not. It was not.
I remember going to quite a few soccer matches in the 70s to Loftus Road. I thought it was a decent pitch, you know.
Yeah, Loftus Road was a good pitch. I mean, it was a proper, stadium kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
But you went to Bristol Rovers, and that was another one that had a track around it. It was like White City. You had a big cinder track around it, and there was a couple of places like that had, and you felt like you were so far away from the crowd. It was, yeah. Of course, now you look at the stadium now that they've built at Stamford Bridge, and it's night and day from what it used to be.
yeah.
So,
The same vibe,
But you think about this. You think about some of those old pitches. I mean, there was more sand than grass on some of those.
oh yeah, oh you had grass on it up till November.
Yeah.
Coming at the beginning of November, especially up the middle, right up the middle, it was just like dirt and sand. That's all they. That's what you played on, and it was the wings were the only place that had any grass on them.
Yeah.
That's the way they were. It's.
There you go. I mean, footballers today should thank their lucky stars what they have. They have it very good. They have very good. They don't have Norman Hunter or Chopper Harris to deal with or anything like that.
That's what was it? That 1970 Cup final.
Yeah.
That was played at Wembley after the Horse of the Year show. That was like, what best that was, asking two teams to play a football match on that. That was something else.
Insane. Before we finish, over the weekend in the GA, the hurling championship over the weekend, we had the two semi-finals on Saturday and Sunday. We had 40,000 at the final between the semi-final between Clare and Kilkenny on Saturday, and Clare came good in the second half and they edged out Kilkenny by 2 points. Then on Sunday yesterday, we had a full house of 83,400 people between Cork and Limerick. Limerick were going for an absolutely historic 5 in a row All-Ireland finals, which have never been achieved by anybody. And they were beaten by Cork in an absolutely cracking match. I watched it on television. I watched it twice, actually, again at night. But it was an absolute cracking match. They did go down with their boots on. I don't. Did anyone of you see it? Did you see it all, Joe?
I did not. No, I did not. I was following it on the.
It was an incredible match, and it's Cork and Clare now in the final, the Ireland final. But that Limerick team are young. They have 9 or 10 more young fellas on the bench, and I think that they'll be back again next year. But for this year, anyway, thanks for the memories, Limerick. Fantastic, and well done, lads, and well done to all of them.
Oh yeah, I mean, what they were being asked to do here, 5 in a row, was, I mean, that was just unbelievable. What they've done, I mean, they've already done 5 in 6 years, right?
Yeah.
So this would have been, like you say, unprecedented, and the effort that those guys have put in to do
in the modern era, what we call the modern era, from 97 onwards, when they introduced a backdoor system where you had a round robin, whereas before it was straight knockout, you went out, you lost once and you were gone for good.
Yeah.
They have because there are so few top class counties hurling, they introduced a new system. So from 97 on, it gets more difficult to do that because there are more games to be played against the top opposition. So to achieve 4 in a row in the modern era really was a phenomenal achievement for Limerick. And Limerick would not be, for people who may know nothing about hurling, Limerick wouldn't be a hotbed of hurling. And that's not disparity towards them or anything, historically speaking,
Yeah.
And everything they got, they had to fight for. I mean, back in the 30s and 40s, you had Mick Mackey and all those guys on the Limerick team. But then it was up to 1973 when they won the All-Ireland again, with that team with Eamon Cregan and Richie Bennis and all of that.
All played for Sexton Street, CBS.
Yeah, exactly. And so from 1973 till 2018, that was the distance they had to travel again before they won the next one. So you can see that what this team has achieved is phenomenal. There's no other word for it, because you had Cork, Tipperary, Kilkenny, which are the three traditional. They have the most All Irelands won of all the others together, and so therefore Limerick were not alone were they up against history and tradition and all of that, but they had to overcome an awful lot of adversity as well. And I think that it's a testament of the team, of the management and all, that they kept them together and they achieved such fantastic days for Limerick hurling. But no doubt they'll be back. But as a Corkman, I won't gloat. I'll wait 2 more weeks. I'll wait for 2 more weeks
Yeah.
till the final comes along.
You better be careful of the banner. That's all I'm saying, because those guys have been hurting a little bit as well.
Oh, they have, they have.
You know, they've come so close.
They have, they have. But
yeah,
we'll see,
it's
so
interesting. Now, 2 months of teams in the final.
Again.
That's great,
yeah, and it's unusual. So from this list, before we go, we'll have tomorrow night we have Spain and France. Wednesday we have England and the Netherlands, and we'll be back here next Monday night to savour the final, because the final is on next Sunday. So as you know, it is, it's on next Sunday, the final. So by the time we'll see you again, there'll be new European champions. There's no doubt about it. We don't know who they'll be, but we wish all the 14s the best of luck. So from Derwin Honan, from Joe Waters, and from myself, till we meet again, lads, take care and have a good week.
Take care, lads. Have a good one.
Bye.
See you, boys.
Bye.
See ya.